but it was like, okay, if the floor is 30 homers, we can only build from here, right? Well, shows up last year, got off to a really slow start, got sent down, came back up. He was better, but left some to be desired.
Here we go. Cody Stavenhagen, star of Tiger Territory, joining us right now. Cody, great to see you. And we're going to jump right into business. We've got storylines to hit. And of course, if people want to learn more about the Tigers, podcast, YouTube, the whole deal, check out Cody's show. So let's hit those storylines, please. All right, Cody, here's the plan. Can this team run it back? They had so much magic, but also needed help. The Twins collapse to even make it to the playoffs. So what does the next step look like for them? What about Skubal, back-to-back years? Can it be done? Infield shuffling. Gleyber Torres second, Colt Keith to first, Spencer Torkelson where? And then young talent for days. Riley Green, Jackson Jobe, full season of him in the big leagues and what that's going to look like. Let's talk it out right now. So, Cody, how do they make this magic happen again when they're not going to sneak up on teams, are they?
No, I think, the Tigers are definitely taken more seriously than they have been in recent years. I think teams know when the Tigers come to town, they're going to see some pretty nasty arms. But the challenge, I think, for the Tigers is going to be making sure that they can sustain last year's pitching performances, and score a little bit more runs. And given the way the offseason shook out, they added only one hitter. That was Gleyber Torres. They were in the Alex Bregman sweepstakes until the end. It didn't happen. Now you're left really banking on the development of young players. And look, Riley Green was an all-star last year. He can continue to get better. Colt Keith hit like 285 from mid-May on. He can continue to get better, but it's still going to be a very young lineup. The Tigers will continue to mix and match, but I really think that's the key, is just how much can they hit? Will they have more guys take a step forward than they do guys take a step backward? You look in center field, Parker Meadows was dynamic down the stretch. Can he produce at anywhere near that level now through 162 game season? Shortstop's a big question mark, but there's some good things brewing here in Detroit, so we'll see how it all shakes out.
Wow. Okay. They're speaking of big things shaking out and brewing in Detroit. Tarek Skubal, he won the Cy Young. He's a pretty big deal now. Tracy Morgan's offering for him to come on SNL and all these big deals. Can he do it again? Can Tarek Skubal and Jack Flaherty reunite, become the Wonder Twins, one right-handed, one left-handed? Jack Flaherty have the year he had, and then Skubal win the Cy Young again.
Yeah, I think if there's one thing I feel strongly about is that Skubal can definitely repeat. This guy's really become a well-rounded pitcher. He pounds the strike zone. He throws with plus velocity. He has one of the best changeups in the game. He has a slider that can miss a ton of bats. He has different ways to get hitters out. I think the combination of stuff and command is at the top of the league, and that if he stays healthy, he's going to be one of the best pitchers in the game year in and year out going forward. Jack Flaherty, look, this guy's a really good pitcher, has been for a while. He had some down years and battled some kind of nagging injuries, but really got things together last year. I think Flaherty can continue to be really good. The question is, will he be as good as he was last year? Before the trade deadline, he had a sub 3 ERA. Missed a ton of bats. We saw the fastball kind of fluctuate a little bit down the stretch. He and the Tigers have both talked about like his mechanics got just a little bit out of whack. Maybe wasn't getting as far down the slope as he wanted to, kind of cutting himself off in his delivery. So he's got some things to sort out to make sure he can be consistent throughout the course of the season. But I think Flaherty will continue to be productive, and I think Skubal's a very good bet to repeat as a Cy Young Award winner, if not at least a top candidate.
How's this infield shuffle going to really, really just be successful for the Tigers? GT, Gleyber Torres, said with the Yankees, I ain't playing third base. I'm a second baseman. So clearly he's a second baseman. Colt Keith signed a nice little extension before ever really being in the big leagues. And now all of a sudden he's a first baseman. And Spencer Torkelson, who they need
to produce his 30 home run power is on the bench on a new team in AAA. What's happening, and could it be something different? Could it end up being something different than that?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you want to now know the concern of the team, you just kind of laid it out. We'll see what happens with Javi Baez at shortstop, but if he's not productive with the bat or if he's not healthy, I worry this could be one of the worst defensive infield in baseball. Third base could be a revolving door. Glaber, he's a nice addition with the stick. I think even in Detroit, people aren't giving him quite as much credit for his steady offensive production. But he led all second basemen in errors and was, I think -11 defensive runs saved last year. Somehow the Tigers got worse with their infield defense by adding Glaber, shifting Colt Keith to first base. Keith, you look at his body type, he's 6'3", 6'4". He's a huge guy. Um, Probably was always going to be best suited for first, but he's never played there before in his life. Spent a lot of time at third before last year. Spent all last year adapting to second, got better. Hey, now you're moving again. Just watching him here early in spring training, it's going to be another adjustment. It's going to take some time, and we don't really quite know how good Colt Keith will be at first base. I think the bat's real, but there's some defensive concerns, and for as good as the pitching is, as a staff, they didn't strike a ton of dudes out last year. They have a lot of sinker ball guys, generate a lot of ground balls, which is good, but the infield defense scares me a little bit. And then Torkelson, it's a huge question mark. If I had to project the roster right now, I think I would put Spencer Torkelson in AAA. But just being around the team these past few days, it seems like the Tigers really believe they could carry him on the bench, even though he'd have to be a first base DH type. He's not playing any other positions. But if his bat gets going good enough that he can start against lefties and be available for late game at bats on a day there's a right-handed starter, the Tigers would love to carry him. If they can get a guy who's that productive with the bat, they would love it. But I think he has a lot to prove in spring training. There's a chance Spencer Torkelson isn't on this team at all.
That's my question before we get to the last storyline is how's he going to handle that? Because he was 1-1, he was super hyped, and we're only a year away from him being an impact bat for them. So how is he handling this? And man, it's amazing how you can fall so quickly in baseball.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a tough few years for Torque. This is a guy who came up with a ton of hype, had a really rough rookie season, and then got things together, hit 31 homers. You look at the rest of his stat line, he had some stuff to figure out. Wasn't really hitting for average, didn't get on base a ton, didn't play very good defense. But it was like, okay, if the floor is 30 homers, we can only build from here, right? Well, shows up last year, got off to a really slow start, got sent down, came back up. He was better, but left some to be desired. He's said all the right things in camp. He said, look, he gets it. I have to prove that I consistently perform. I've honestly always been impressed by how Spencer Torkelson has handled himself. For me as a reporter, sometimes it's been hard. Like, I like this guy. He's a good guy. You want to have some empathy for a dude who seems to be putting in the work, but baseball's just kind of chewing him up and spitting him out. Um, Tough to know what really goes on in that head. I think there have been times he's probably gotten a little bit too far inside his own head, both at the plate, both maybe worrying about external factors. Um, in a way, maybe like now expectations are lowered. So could that be a good thing for him? That might be something to consider.
Okay, makes sense. Well, he was a guy that was supposed to be a star for the Tigers. Now they have some guys. Riley Green, I would consider a star. He's probably the most known guy on the Tigers behind Skubal as a position player. But can any of the other guys take the next step? Jackson Jobe, Young, Parker Meadows, whoever it needs to be. Can any of these guys fulfill their potential? Because they have a ton of young talent on this Tigers. We haven't even mentioned the bullpen guys that came in and dominated for the last month. So can these guys take the next step and continue and not have like sophomore slumps, I guess?
Right. Yeah, that's the blessing and curse of a team this young. It's why I thought they needed another veteran impact bat. There are some major question marks. Like I said, I think Colt Keith could be a guy who takes that step, at least on the offensive side of the ball. Parker Meadows is really dynamic. But third base, Jace Young has a chance to win a spot as a rookie. What is he going to do? Where do we even set expectations? Hard to say. We haven't mentioned Kerry Carpenter yet, who absolutely crushes right-handed pitching. Is he going to face lefties more? How much can you play him in the outfield? These are all questions. Trey Sweeney, I see, is on the screen right now. Is he even going to lock down that opening day role? When you have a young team like this, I feel like this is what normally happens. A couple of these guys meet expectations, and a couple of them don't. Um, that's probably what I would expect from the Tigers. The question is, can they win 86 games again? Is there a 90 win version of this team? I think the floor is a lot higher for this year's Tigers, but you kind of need all these young guys to achieve the best versions of themselves to be a 90 plus win team. And that just doesn't happen very often in baseball.
All right, on your way out here, Cody, I'm going to have you promote Tiger Territory so we can show the promo, but also have you tell us about your friends on the show and maybe pick your favorite episode, like a guest episode, because you've probably had at least several guests here. I'm thinking about a couple in my head, but I'll let you take it over.
Well, yeah, you guys can go check out Tiger Territory. We are doing 3 times a week now that we are in season. My co-host Kieran Steckley and former Tigers outfielder Austin Jackson. He's a great time. You got to check out his stories if you haven't already. It's hilarious.
Hey, everybody. Be sure to like and subscribe for more content.
We're back here every weekday, all year long, so do not miss an episode.
The videos are coming in all day. Here's another video you might enjoy.
Baseball the way it should be covered.